Hello person, you are a triangle. Why a triangle? Because it is the first stable shape. First, there is the dot. It expands to a circle. And the first stable shape within it is the triangle. The base of this triangle, that is you, is your body. The second layer of your being is your emotions. Then you have your thoughts. Pretty sure it's spelled like that. And at the top of your being, which could also ironically be the actual foundation of your being, is your consciousness. Yes. What a mouthful. So, psychologists think your consciousness is like a part of your brain, which is so, ignorant. The consciousness is a fundamental part of your being. It is separate from all the rest, and might even say it's the foundation of all the rest. It's a bit like saying, oh, the music is in the radio. Like you can open a radio or a TV to look for the music and the images. You're not gonna find anything there because there's nothing there. Now, your thoughts and your emotions together is what is called your soul. And your consciousness, that is your spirit. People often confuse these two. They say things like, body, mind, and soul, which doesn't make any sense because, your mind is part of your soul. Like your thoughts, I should have written mind here. Okay, note to self for the next one. But anyhow, your soul, so this is your brain. Obviously, it looks more prettier than this. And then you have your heart. And these two are intrinsically linked because you have a thought that goes down, it makes an emotion, and then the emotion reinforces the thought. These two are intrinsically linked. There is a feedback loop. Your brain sends the electrical signal. You can see it as like a particle. It is supposed to represent the particle. And your heart, that makes the waves. So if you're familiar with electricity, there is the particle, the electrical current, and if it moves through a wire, that makes a wave, and then magnetism. And if you use magnetism around a wire, that induces the particle. So they're two aspects of the same coin. That's why they're intrinsically linked. And so in the same analogy, one feeds into the other. Your brain gives the electrical signal, goes to the heart, which is an amplifier. You can look this up. What was it? It's like the magnetic field of your heart is like, what was it, like 5,000 times that of your brain. So yeah, electrical receiver, amplifier, and then the magnetic wave induces the particle again, and on it goes. So, between your emotions and your body, you could say you have another layer which is called desire. To keep this simple, we'll just forget about that for now. But I do want to point out that the link between your emotions and your body, I know this under, well, I would say it's a science, but obviously not recognized by modern science. Oh yeah, I wrote it in French. So it's supposed to be total biology. So you can look this up. Basically, emotions, as you know, influence the body. And you say, oh yeah, psychosomatic, you have stress, it affects the body. Like, no. It is way more concrete than this. I'm telling you, you can look this up. I just want to mention it here for completion's sake. But basically, every disease that you have, every disease, even as far as broken bones, all of these have a specific emotional problem, a specific emotional conflict. That means if you feel a certain way in your emotions, your body is gonna manifest a certain disease. Let me be very blunt here. That means that you can cure cancer with a conversation. What, Nani? That's crazy. Look it up. Like, I'm not here to debate, what is, because I've seen it happen real life multiple times. This is true. And you can look it up. This has been mapped. Obviously, why doesn't science know? Well, it's because, you know how it is, money. You know that pharmas and stuff, the pharma cartels, why would they cure your cancer with a conversation if you can pay them $40,000 for them to give you poison and die, They have no incentive for it. But this is true nonetheless. So, your spirit, your soul, your body. This is who you are. Now you've seen that I've kept some space here open with your thoughts, because this is the really important part. And you're probably very amazed by this if you never heard of it, but for me it's very trivial. But for me, what's really important, and the whole reason I want to make this video, is because, let us dive into this. So you have thoughts. What are thoughts? Those are images. You have a certain set of images, one after the other, and they make a story, okay? Those are just images inside your head. And certain of those images, you say that story, that's true. That is what's called a belief. Beliefs are stories or images you have in your head that you believe is true. They're not intrinsically true, you just believe they are. You say that is true. That story, that is true. And those things are very deep in you. You do not consciously see them, because those are the basis of your reality. It's like, you don't think about gravity because gravity is true. So you're not gonna question that. That is like a subconscious programming you have. Okay? But more importantly, more intrinsically than beliefs, I think you spell it like this. Identity. You have certain images and stories that you believe not only is true, but is you. You believe you are this, you believe you are that. But those things are just stories, my friend, because who you really are is this here. Pure consciousness, pure awareness, a blue sky where everything can come up in. And the sky can observe the clouds. But the clouds are just identity, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, all of that. So basically, who are you? If you believe that you're anything on the bottom side of this pyramid, like on this side, you are wrong. What you are is this thing here. Pure consciousness, having a human experience, because obviously you do have a body, you do have emotions, thoughts, belief, identity, etc. Duh. You are not pure consciousness floating around in space, but you are it incarnated in a body, which means you get all the layers of the body with it. And the problem is, everyone believes this is who they are, this part here, the bottom side of the pyramid. But what you really are, in essence, is the top part here. That is who you truly are. And in regards to identity and beliefs, we've all been brought up, you're like this, you're like that, you're good, you're bad, you're this quality, you're that not quality, I forgot the word for, default, or, you get what I'm saying. And who loves to tell you who you are? Society and culture. You grew up in one country, you're this kind of person. You grew up in that country, well, you're that kind of person. And depending on all the things here, your body, what kind of emotions you are, what kind of thoughts you have, what culture you're born in, all of that is going to determine who you are. Because, well, society loves to do that. culture loves to put you in a box because once you're in a box, they can control you and they can keep power and domination over you. But so once you realize who you truly are, you are free. Not free in the physical sense or the emotional sense or thought sense, you are truly free. And then nobody can tell you anymore who you are, which means you cannot be manipulated. Which means, well, for the people, living in control and domination, they hate that. They hate that. And so they always try to put you in boxes. So, how do you get to this? Go inside you, go in your body, check what emotions you have, check what thoughts there are there that create that emotion. You will eventually bump up to your beliefs, and then even more so, the belief of who you think you are. And also, a little warning here, once you hear this stuff, you can also have an identity to believe that you are not this, but it's just an identity. You need to see your identity so it dissolves and so you can experience your pure consciousness, not as another idea, not as another identity, because then it becomes a bit like the paradox in Buddhism, like you learn oh, you must get rid of desire. Okay, so you want that. Do you see the paradox? You desire to be desireless. This is a loop that you will be stuck. And it's the same idea with identity here. So I wish I could tell you, do this, do that, and you will realize it. Because that's what it is. It's not something you learn, it's you realize. This is always here. You always are this. You just forget it because you identify with the rest of the bottom of the pyramid. And so, yeah, once again, I wish I could tell you, hey, do this, do that, and you will realize it, but it's very tricky. How do you realize something that already is? I can tell you about it, but now you have this idea in your mind about it. Not necessarily a true experience of it, but let me tell you, this is real. And if you're truly sincere in looking for this, you will find it. So obviously, many religions talk about this, and this has been mapped throughout the ages, and you have known people that have accessed this, but it is very real. Well, I think that's it for the TLDR on, what you are and what you need to be doing. So, yeah, I hope this helps.